Amelia pushed through a thicket of ancient oaks. Their leaves, usually rustling with life, hung still and heavy. An unnatural silence had settled over the woods. It pressed against her ears, a living presence. The air, thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, felt heavy, oppressive. The forest held its breath, waiting. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy. Twisted branches clawed at the sky like grasping fingers. Shadows danced at the edge of Amelia's vision. They whispered promises of secrets and dangers. Fear pricked at the edges of her resolve, but she pressed on. Something called to her from the heart of the woods. Deeper she ventured into the heart of the unknown. The silence deepened, broken only by the crunch of leaves beneath her boots. Each step was both a burden and a release. She was a lone flicker of life in a sea of watchful stillness. The forest held its breath, and so did she. A low hum resonated through the forest floor. It vibrated in Amelia's teeth. She quickened her pace, drawn towards the source. The trees thinned, revealing a clearing bathed in an ethereal light. In the center stood a ring of ancient stones, their surfaces etched with glowing runes. This was a place of power, a place of whispers. The stones pulsed with an unseen energy. They seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting with the rhythm of the forest. Amelia approached cautiously, her hand outstretched. The air crackled with anticipation. She could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon her. A whisper, barely audible, reached her ears. It slithered through the clearing, weaving itself around the stones. Curiosity warred with fear within her. She had heard tales of these stones, whispered legends passed down through generations. They were a gateway, it was said, a bridge between worlds. As she stepped closer, the whispers grew stronger. They swirled around her, tugging at her clothes, her hair. They were ancient voices, filled with longing and sorrow. Amelia closed her eyes, surrendering to the pull. She had to know their secrets. The whispers resolved into distinct voices. They overlapped, whispered secrets and pleas for release. Amelia felt a cold dread grip her heart. These were the voices of the dead, trapped between worlds, bound to the stones. She recognized the language. It was ancient, spoken only by the elders of her village, a language of power and forgotten magic. The voices spoke of betrayal, of a pact broken, of a guardian angered. They spoke of a way to appease the guardian, to restore balance. Amelia's breath caught in her throat. She understood. These souls were bound to the stones because of a broken promise. They were tethered to this world, unable to find peace, and the whispers were their cries for help. She had to do something. The air grew colder as a new voice cut through the others. Deeper, more resonant. It commanded attention, silencing the other whispers. This was the guardian, the keeper of the gateway, and it was not pleased. Then, clear as a bell, a familiar voice rose above the din, a voice that sent shivers down Amelia's spine, her mother's voice. It spoke of love, of regret, of a desire for peace. "Amelia," her mother's voice whispered, "help us, set us free." Tears welled in Amelia's eyes. Her mother had vanished years ago, lost to the forest. Now she understood. Her mother was trapped here, her spirit bound to the stones. The guardian's voice boomed, "You cannot interfere, child. This is not your place." But Amelia would not be deterred. She had found her mother, or at least her mother's spirit. She would not lose her again. She would face the guardian, appease its anger, and free her mother and the other lost souls. This was her purpose. She could feel it in her bones. Section 5. The Village and the Vale's Disturbance. The whispers had been growing stronger for weeks, seeping into the village at the edge of the woods. The villagers, fearful and desperate, had resorted to leaving offerings at the edge of the forest, hoping to appease whatever spirits lurked within. But their offerings had only served to further anger the guardian. Amelia knew that their fear, their ignorance, had only made the situation worse. They had treated the forest as a place to be feared, a place to be avoided. They had forgotten the old ways. the respect that was owed to the spirits and the balance that needed to be maintained. She had always been drawn to the forest, even as a child. Her grandmother, the village healer and keeper of ancient knowledge, had taught her the old ways. She had taught her about the delicate balance between the world of the living and the world of the dead. And she had warned her about the dangers of disturbing that balance. Now, armed with her grandmother's knowledge and the tools of her trade, Amelia was the only one who could right this wrong. She was the only one who could appease the guardian, free the trapped spirits, and restore peace to the forest and the village. Section 6. Grandmother's Grimoire and Gifts. Amelia had prepared for this moment. From her bag she retrieved her grandmother's grimoire, its leather cover worn smooth with age. Within its pages lay the secrets to ancient rituals, forgotten spells, and the language of the spirits. Her grandmother had prepared her for this, knowing that one day she might have to face the mysteries of the forest. She removed a pouch filled with dried herbs and a silver athame, its blade gleaming in the ethereal light. These were not weapons of harm, but tools of balance and peace. Her grandmother had gifted them to her along with the knowledge of how to use them. With a deep breath, Amelia began to prepare the ritual. She arranged the herbs in a specific pattern, drawing on the power of the earth and the whispers of the wind. The air crackled with anticipation, the forest holding its breath as she worked. She was a conduit, channeling the energy of the ancient world. The guardian's voice echoed around her, a rumbling threat. "Turn back, child, your efforts are futile." But Amelia stood firm. She would not be deterred, not when her mother's spirit and the fate of the forest hung in the balance. Section 7. Facing the Guardian of the Stones. The air crackled and sparked. A figure began to solidify in the center of the stone circle. Tall and imposing, it radiated an aura of ancient power. Its eyes, burning like hot coals, fixed on Amelia. The Guardian had revealed itself. Fear threatened to consume her, but Amelia stood her ground. She raised her chin, meeting the Guardian's gaze with a steady stare. "I mean you no harm," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I am here to help." The Guardian's voice boomed, echoing around the clearing. "You cannot comprehend the forces at play, child. Turn back before it is too late." Amelia took a step forward, her gaze unwavering. "My mother's spirit is bound here," she said, her voice laced with emotion. "I will not leave without her." The Guardian's form flickered, its anger palpable. "Very well," it boomed. "You have chosen your fate." The air around them crackled with energy, a storm brewing. Section 8. Cleansing the circle, stilling the whispers. Amelia raised the athame, its silver surface reflecting the ethereal light. She spoke the words of power passed down from her grandmother, her voice resonating with the ancient language of the forest. The runes on the stones flared, bathing the clearing in an otherworldly light. The Guardian lunged, its form shifting like smoke. But Amelia was ready. She moved with a swiftness she didn't know she possessed, dodging the Guardian's attack. This was not a battle of brute force, but of will and ancient magic. She channeled the energy of the stones, of the forest, of the whispers themselves. With a final surge of power, Amelia slammed the athame into the ground. A shockwave pulsed outward, rippling through the clearing. The Guardian roared in anger and pain as the energy washed over it. The runes on the stones glowed brilliantly, then dimmed, the whispers fading into silence. The air hung heavy with the fading echoes of magic. The Guardian, its form flickering, turned its burning gaze on Amelia. "You have interfered with forces beyond your comprehension," it rasped. Section 9. The veil repaired, a warning left behind. Amelia kept her hand on the athame, feeling a connection to the earth, to the stones, to the whispers that had finally gone silent. The clearing felt lighter, the oppressive atmosphere lifting. She had done it. She had appeased the Guardian. The ghostly image of her mother appeared before her, her face etched with peace. "Thank you, Amelia," she whispered, her voice filled with love. "You have set us free." Other figures, shimmering forms of light, began to emerge from the stones. They smiled at Amelia, their gratitude palpable before they faded into the forest. The guardian, its form now faint, turned to Amelia one last time. "The veil is thin here," it warned, its voice a low rumble. "Respect its power, child, and never forget the price of interference." Then with a final flicker it vanished. Amelia stood in the center of the silent clearing, the forest breathing easily around her. The air, no longer heavy with whispers, was filled with the sounds of birdsong and the rustling of leaves. She had restored balance, but the guardian's warning echoed in her ears. The veil was thin, and she would never forget the responsibility that came with walking the line between worlds.